people want to work with people that they like. And I think that's super important. I don't think enough filmmakers really understand that in these modern days. And if you show up sluggish and not really willing to do that, would you hire somebody again? So business is slow right now, right? That's what I'm hearing from you. There's a lot of different things that you can do when business is slow. And especially as a filmmaker, I think it's super important to kind of go through some of these slow times and experience what it's like to be slow in order to understand what to do next. When it comes to this type of work and you're looking for jobs, and it all comes down to outreach, right? You're probably generating your leads from B2B sales, like people that are recommending you, Instagram, through connected followers. B2B is everybody who you've essentially done no cold outreach. Everything has been interconnected in your web of strings that has gotten you this far. So here's a couple things that you can do. First, let's talk about progressing the filmmaking career. A couple things. Ooh. Now is a good time to work on a project that you've always wanted to work on, build a treatment that you've always wanted to build, or even work on your demo reel. Start showcasing to clients what you're capable of doing more than just telling them what you're capable of doing. And as a freelance filmmaker, your number one income of work is the body of work that you produce and show, right? I've been talking to my friend Anthony a lot, and he is an expert in social media. He's done tens of millions of views, and he's been praising me on how I need to work more on my social media status and along those lines. And I'm not big on social media. Maybe I have like 5,500 followers or something along those lines. But total, more or less, is that he's generating all of his revenue through leads that he's putting on social media. And he's doing that because he's producing, in addition to his client work, content that he's passionate about, and he's just posting it. And I talked to him on the phone yesterday. I said, you're posting stuff about your girlfriend, you're going on travel trips, and it's kind of vlog style. And he replied, yeah, because that's all in my funnel. So being a freelance filmmaker, agency owner, anything along those lines, all comes down to your funnel. How are you generating these leads? Let's say you've never ran ads a day in your life, because you probably haven't. And running ads kind of sounds a little bit insane, right? You got to spend $2,000, let's say, per month to run advertisements on work that you feel like should advertise itself. Now, the problem is that nobody knows about you, right? Nobody knows that you exist. Nobody knows that your body of work is out there, that you're able to do this, because everything that you're putting online is work that you've already done. And that's not today's day and age of social media. Today's day and age of social media, look at, for example, what you're scrolling on and what you're reeling through. It's ridiculous videos of someone holding an FX3 with a small rig attachment saying, pay my invoices now. Or it's, here's how we shot this ridiculous car commercial at a gas station in under 30 seconds with no lighting. So people are developing new ways of generating leads and showing what they're capable of doing, as opposed to the final results. I'm seeing this a lot more and more often, and I'm not one to advocate. I haven't really done a lot of this type of work before. So it's something that I'm currently building. It's something that I'm currently working on, is how to generate more leads through social media. Okay, social media is just one way to generate these leads. But let's say you want to be a documentary filmmaker. And documentaries, social media is not going to generate you that many doc leads, right? Especially if you're passionate about shooting docs, and docs is what you want to do, or weddings or anything along those lines. Weddings will definitely generate you leads on social media. But I would find it and think that documentary leads would be a little bit more difficult over social media. So how do you do that? Well, it all boils down to your passion project and your demo reel, and reaching out to agencies or prospective clients about, hey, this is what I'm capable of. You know, this is the gear that I shoot on. Here's some of my previous work. If you have a moment, please look out. Every couple months, I write down a list. Well, I have a list, and I add to that list, or I remove from it, clients that I know I have to reach out to. So let's say, for example, I shot an Adidas video in 2021 and during Art Basel Miami, and I haven't really been in touch with them since. But every 6 months, I send an email, say, hey, Kat, how are you? It's Joseph Pierce. Remember we worked on the 2021 video with Adidas for Pusha T, and I was just wondering if you have anything coming up in the Miami area or anywhere in the continental United States, I'm willing to travel for the opportunity. Here's some of my recent work on my website, link the website, or any work that would be tailored to them on your website, link that specifically so they don't have to browse your website. Send that email, maybe you'll get a reply saying, hey Joe, thanks for reaching out. Currently we're working on a couple projects. I'll let you know when something is coming up soon, right? And I think that's really what boils down to generating leads, is consistent follow-up. A lot of filmmakers that I know don't necessarily follow up. They post the work, they share the work, they grow a little bit of momentum, and then all of a sudden the momentum dies out because they didn't generate enough leads off of what they posted in order to consistently be posting. Which makes sense, you know? If you run out of leads, then how are you gonna keep posting work as opposed to making content like this for YouTube or social channels that would generate more leads? It all comes down to picking the niche, right? People know me as a car cinematic filmmaker in Miami, but is that what I want to be known for? I mean, that's something that I need to handle internally, obviously, but people know that only because my socials and every platform that I have is based around cars. But here's the caveat. I get booked for events more than I get booked for cars. I have more retainer clients paying more money for filmmaking in automotive space than I do in any other space. But yet, I'll shoot 5 events every 2 weeks. Why is that? It's because my B2B knows me as an event filmmaker in Miami, in this small pond of people. And my cold outreach, knowing that I wanted to do cars, I sent out a bunch of emails, posted some work. I got cold outreach from cars, and I signed retainer jobs with them. And that's really how it ended up happening. And so now I get hit up for any type of car-related production more so than any type of event production. So how are you presenting yourself to the people, right? Are you doing weddings and you only post wedding work? You're not gonna get hit up for any type of car work, right? Besides the fact that they're 2 completely different styles of filmmaking, you would really have to understand that no wedding clients would look at your car work and be like, hey, you know what? Joe's a great wedding filmmaker. Meanwhile, there's pictures of Ferraris on my Instagram, right? What do you want? And once you figure out what you want, go all in on that niche and generate leads, follow-ups, cold outreach, everything along those lines. You could watch any Hormozy video on this topic specifically and apply it to freelance filmmaking. People want to work with people that they like. That's the bottom line. You could be an amazing filmmaker, right? 10 out of 10. But if people don't want to work with you because they don't like how you treat people on set, they don't like how you operate and tell other people, you know, to do things, and the way that your attitude and persona and tone comes off, why would they want to hire you again? Yes, the output was incredible. Absolutely astonishing video that you produced for Aston Martin. But who wants to work with somebody that they didn't enjoy working with? Let's say you're having a wedding. Your wedding filmmakers show up to the event and they don't want to do half the stuff that you want them to do. Or they're giving pushback. You know, oh no, let's do it over here, let's do it like this. You may say, oh, they're professionals. They know what's best. But to a certain degree, Because if your wife is in your ear, or your soon-to-be wife is in your ear, nagging about the certain type of shot that she envisioned on Pinterest, and you're not getting that because your filmmakers aren't providing that to the client, you'd be a little upset. Now, hopefully you don't have to have a second wedding anytime soon, but let's say your kids decide to have a wedding one day, and that company is still in business, but you remember those small details. Would you hire them again? Probably not. So that kind of brings us over to personality is everything, especially when you're working with such a small pond of people. You know, Miami is not a big market, and there's not a lot of, I wouldn't say room to grow, but if you screw over the wrong people in this market, oh, then you're probably going to have a tough time finding jobs because word spreads pretty quickly. And I assume that goes for anywhere, but in Miami in particular, it goes a lot quicker. There's only a handful of exceptional filmmakers in this city, and most of them travel outside of it in order to get jobs and do certain things, right? So I think it's definitely important. It boils down to those type of factors. Let's talk about solving business problems. You probably don't have enough work because you're not solving enough problems. The richest people in the world solve the hardest problems to solve. If you think about it, look at Google, solving a problem. Look at wedding filmmakers, solving a problem. Look at anybody producing any type of content. What problem are they solving? Switch your mindset from, wow, this is a great video, I wonder how they did it, to the perspective of a business owner. If you want more clients. We love gear. Everybody loves gear, right? Everybody loves gear. But gear is designed as a tool for you to solve a problem. If you're not solving any problems, you're not going to get paid, right? What kind of problems do you need to solve? The event filmmaking space, let's talk about it. Why does it only pay $1,000 to $2,500 per event for a basic event? Someone calls me up, hey Joe, we're having a meet and greet with, you know, whoever at this sushi restaurant. We have a budget of $2,000. Can you come and do it from 7 to 10 p.m.? Oh, sure. With an edit? Sure, I'm there, right? But what problem is that solving? All it's enabling, the only problem that solves is the ability to showcase that that restaurant held that event. That's the only problem that solves. And it's only worth $2,000. That problem isn't worth or will ever be worth more than $2,000. So let's talk about a car commercial, right? I have a brand new car, brand new Volkswagen. What's the problem? I'm not selling any of them. This is a much larger problem than showcasing a sushi restaurant. So clients are willing to pay more money, and in turn, you get paid more money. Now we're solving, larger problems that enable us to make more money, right? So think like a business owner, think in strategy, think in long term. Are you gonna have the endurance and stamina when you're 40 years old to be consistently filming events, or are you gonna be exhausted with it? I mean, there's nothing worse than filming events, honestly, if you're not going to the nightclub. I think the nightclub is the most demonic form of filmmaking, and it is ultimately just a videographer glorified and capturing stuff. I don't know, I just can't do it. I just can't do the nightclubs. Respect to those who do the nightclubs though, for real. I mean, up until shooting from 2 to 6 a.m. is just something absolutely wicked. Wicked. So if you gotta do that, hustle it out. I would say a very large portion of videographers started with either weddings or nightclubs. So if that's what you gotta do to make a name for yourself, do it, get the money, make the connections, and get out of there. But, you know, hustle through it. Hustle through it. The connections are the source of revenue. If you're only being paid $300 at the nightclub, then it's clear that the connections are way more valuable than the nightclub filming revenue itself. Make the most out of every situation that you're in, right? Think like a business owner. That's all I can say. If you want to think like a business owner and you don't know how, then ask Chat or ask Claude. Hey, this is what I'm currently doing. This is what's working. This is what's not working. Take a look at all my analytics. How can I expand on this topic? It is now easier than ever with AI to understand how the business of freelance filmmaking works. So I suggest that you look into that. It all comes down to content output. How much content are you putting out on a day-to-day basis? All of your competitors, even if their work isn't as good, right? Let's say you see somebody online and you say, because I've done this in the past, I'm guilty of it, this guy's work isn't that great. How is he getting so many leads? And he's consistently working all the time. Now I had this mindset a little while ago, and I would say I really couldn't figure it out. So I started talking to some buddies. I started analyzing what this kid was doing. And all he was doing was pushing more content. That's it. That's all he was doing. All he was doing was double the amount of output that anybody I knew was doing. There was minimal quality. Let's say it was 10% of your standards, which isn't very high, right? But if you post 10 videos at 10% and people watch 10 videos and he's generating views, all of a sudden this kid is generating leads off of social media content. And people want to know more based off of that social media content. So they visit his website. And then on his website, he has more of his actual production work or work that he's proud of, right? As opposed to just putting out content for the sake of it, because he wants people to know who he is. And he wants more and more leads to happen. It comes down to content output. Hormozi talks about this a lot, and I watch and read a lot of Hormozi. And I think that he's right, ultimately. Hormozi has a great point. The amount of content that you put out directly correlates to the amount of leads that you will generate. The next thing I want to talk about is a big one, and it is the way that I see the market trending, especially in the last couple of years, is if you're very into filmmaking like I am, you always want to see how did they do that. You're curious about what ended up happening and along those lines, and what kind of lighting or what camera and what lens and what aspect ratio and what crew did they have, right? Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I love the final product, but people are able to relate to your persona when you post behind the scenes. And that's what your social media story should be. Your social media stories should be behind the scenes, and your feed should be the finalized work along with the slideshow of behind the scenes. That's the way I see it going. Am I an advocate of this? I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But this is the new way of it. This is how I see it going. And every post that I will be doing from now on will include behind the scenes as a slideshow in terms of the final product first, because that's going to be your final blow to the client or your prospective client, enabling you to land the job. And then the behind the scenes of how you achieve that is what people want to see and makes you personable, reputable, and carries a lot of weight on your name. So behind the scenes or active marketing of being able to showcase certain types of camera gear and then push all of that into your longer form content lead funnel, and you'll end up being very well off in terms of content and the way that people recognize you, right? You'll have a persona outside of just being able to create content and that you know you're good at. I'm gonna give you a quick case study real quick on how this applies. 5 years ago, I met a girl named Shannon. Shannon, I shot a video for. She starts dating a man named Harry. Harry's an influencer. He's a super awesome dude. Harry needs a photo shoot. Shannon connects me to her boyfriend. Hey Joe, this is my boyfriend Harry, so on and so forth. I do the photo shoot 2 years ago, okay? 2 years goes by. Harry hits me up. He says, hey, Joe, I have a friend named Sam who's competing in high rocks. And I saw you posting some work with Puma on your socials. Would you be able to film Sam? I'm going to connect you to him. I said, sure, absolutely. Connects me to Sam. I execute an entire photo shoot and some video clips for Sam in High Rocks, Miami. Month later, 2 months later, High Rocks, New York City is coming up. Sam calls me, hey, Joe, I'm coming to New York City. Can you shoot this? Can we do the same thing we did in Miami? I said, absolutely. He's like, perfect. I also know this guy, Garrett and Mel, and this woman named Melanie, who would like to have photos and videos done of them as well. Can you do that? I said, yeah, for sure. Let's do everything. I'm all for it. He connects me with them. Sam goes back after the shoot. Garrett and Melanie are staying the night in New York City. I said, you guys want to go out for a drink? We go out for a drink. I'm sitting at the bar with Garrett. All of a sudden, just met Garrett a few hours prior. Garrett says to me, he's like, you know, I wasn't sure if you were going to be like cool or not. I had no idea what you were going to be like, but after seeing all those photos that you printed out and after we met and just, he's like, dude, you're such an awesome dude. I can't believe that you aren't huge. I can't believe that, you know, that you're not just ripping this nonstop and there's so much going on in your life. And he's like, and I asked him, I said, why do you think that is? He says, it's because nobody knows your persona. People want to know who you are. They don't want to just see your work on social media, which looks amazing, of course. He's like, dude, your photos are insane that you took of us, like, but I didn't know who you were. I only trusted Sam's ability to connect me to you and that you were a reputable person. Once we met, he was like, dude, I instantly knew we were going to hit it off. I was like, wow, this is a big awakening to me. Garrett's a hybrid athlete, right? He's getting all types of stuff sent to him. All types of brands are reaching out to him at 5,000 followers. He's posting every day stories of himself, working out, doing certain things. And I was like, wow, how could I apply this to filmmaking? How could I teach this knowledge forward after I become an advocate for it? And it really just goes to show you that your persona matters so much in a freelance filmmaking world. And if you're a bit of an introvert and you're nervous about this, you're embarrassed, or you just don't feel comfortable on camera, you're gonna start to fall behind. That's the truth. I think you should really consider it. Maybe you don't have to post all your first videos, but start doing something like this. You have a camera right here on a tripod, you're filming it, you're getting used to the action of speaking to camera and how things will certainly unflow and unveil as you begin to talk to the camera, right? And then over the course of time, you film enough of these videos, you become comfortable enough, you understand what it's like, not only behind the camera now, but in front of the camera, and what your actor and how to direct them personably and when you get the shot. It adds to your skill set here. Let's not forget, this is a massive skill set upgrade, is being able to swap both sides of the camera and have the knowledge of what it's like on either end. Think about that. If you're directing somebody and you just can't really relate to them what you need out of the interview, but you've been doing interviews of yourself for the last year, maybe you'll be able to come up with the right phrasing to evoke that emotion from your prospective client that's sitting in a chair in front of you and you're filming. Next thing you know, you have a great film. That's how I would apply that case study. The biggest mistake I made early on was thinking that my work would speak for itself, when that's simply not the truth. I thought if I worked long and hard enough and made these exceptional videos, that clients would magically appear. Little did I know that that's only half the job. Filming is only half of the job. The other half is client relationships, marketing, your persona and personality, the way that you transcribe yourself to prospective clients, follow-ups and invoicing, contracts and negotiating and placing bids, and as well as updating camera gear and all of that along those lines. Mostly it falls into relationships, is my point here. So keep in mind that it's super important in every job that you do to act 100%, just 100%, bring your everything to your A game, because you never know where it will end up leading you. I hope this video helped. Like, subscribe. Maybe I'm gonna finish my chandelier pretty soon. Maybe I'll throw in some B-roll of it, I don't know. Cheers.